Drop it.
What is supply and demand?
First, what is supply? Supply is a fundamental economic concept that describes the total amount of a specific good or service that is available to consumers. For example, there is a drought and very few strawberries are available. More people want strawberries than there are berries available. The price of strawberries increased dramatically. A huge wave of new unskilled workers comes to a city, and all of the workers are willing to take jobs at low wages. Supply. What is supply? Producer, industry, markets. Before we define supply, I want us to learn three important terms. A single player company is easily a producer. A bunch of producers, all the producers in the market form an industry. The people, places, consumers, the group of producer, aka an industry, plan to sell their good is called market. Great. Remember, producer, single player, industry, a group of producer for a certain good type in the same market. Market, the place and people where an industry player seeks to sell their produce. Supply. In economics, supply is simply the amount of goods producer or an industry is willing to sell at a certain price in our terms. Whatever an industry is willing to avail to the market at a certain price, that is economics definition of supply. Second, what is demand? According to Wikipedia, in economics, demand is the quantity of a good that consumers are willing and able to purchase at various prices during a given period of time. The relationship between price and quantity demanded is also called the demand curve. For example, the consumers of a nation are willing to purchase 1 million oranges a month at price of $304 a ton. A hurricane results in damaged crops and reduced supply. Prices jump to $500 a ton and demand drops to 300,000 oranges a month. What is demand? Is it what you desire or want? For example, I want the real aeroplane, Mom. OMG, my kid is very demanding. Is this the right sentence in economics? No way, because economists use the term demand to refer to the amount of a good or service consumers are willing and able to purchase at each price. So, the desire of a child to have a real airplane is not the demand. Why? Because his mommy can pay for it. Even if mommy can afford it but not interested to part with the money or willing to pay, that is also not considered as a demand. Thus, demand is economic constitute three requirements. 1. Want, desire for that good. 2. Ability to pay for that good. 3. Willing to part with the money to purchase that good. So, for us to have information about supply and demand in our country, I have some news. The Department of Agriculture reassures the public that the country's rice supply is adequate for the entire year with a comfortable level of inventory. Going into the lean months and on to December 31, 2020, we have enough supply of food, and that includes our major staple rice, Agriculture Secretary William Dar said. We remain consistent that our total projected supply of rice by end of December 2020 would be 17.994 million metric tons, while our total projected demand would be 14.668 million metric tons, leaving a year-end inventory of 3.326 million metric tons, said the DA chief. This in turn serves as our beginning inventory in January 2021, which is good for 94 days supply, he added. Conclusion: when the supply is higher, the demand is lower. When the supply is lower, the demand is higher.
Supply and demand. Advantages and disadvantages. Supply refers to the amount of goods that are available, while demand refers to how many people want those goods. When supply of a product goes up, the price of a product goes down, and the demand for the product can rise because its cost loss. At some point, too much of the demand for the product will cause the supply to diminish. Of course, when the product has so many consumers, it will be exhausted immediately. When the supply goes down, the demand will rise, and vice versa. When the supply goes up, the demand will go down. Supply and demand ensure that the most desired goods are produced, which are consumers are willing to pay the highest price for the things that they want the most. Of course, the businesses will only create the things that return a profit. They will not create anything that will waste their money, time, and effort. Supply and demand are both important to the economy because they impact the prices of consumers' goods and services within the economy. According to the market economy theory, the relationship between demand and supply balances at a point in the future. This point is what we call the equilibrium price. When the demand goes up, the prices goes up. Of course, if the prices of the product goes up, not all people can afford that kind of goods. If the demand goes up, of course, the producer will produce more and more of that goods. And if producer can produce the required amount of that particular goods, the price will automatically comes down to normal. And if people no longer want a particular goods, they will simply stop demanding for it. So, it is no longer profitable for the producer. Of course, they will stop producing that kind of product. We must know that the demand comes first before the supply, as demand creates the incentives for the product to create.
Hey everyone, I'm Samuel Sutanich and I'm going to tackle about how supply and demand can be computed.
Quantity supplied. When we say quantity supplied, if the price is higher, the company is more willing to produce more of that good because they will make more money to offset the cost of production of that good. When we say quantity demanded, the higher the price is, the smaller the quantity demand will be. The higher the price, the less willing consumers will be to purchase it at that price. In all, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. The equilibrium price of a product is the price at which the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded. Economics predicts that markets naturally tends toward this equilibrium. There are three ways how to find or how to compute for supply and demand. First, by graphing the functions. Second, by finding the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. Third, determining which the quantity demand is higher than the quantity supplied. So for the example, suppose the quantity supplied S and quantity demanded D of shorts at megamoles is S of P is equals to negative 100 plus 50P and D of P is equals to 500 minus 25P. Now we're going to use the first way by graphing these two functions. As you can see here is the quantity and the price, where the demand is going down and the supply is going up, where we can see that there is an intersection line between the supply and the demand. Now we're going through the second part, where we're going to find the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity of the given. So for the computation, first copy the given and then divide both sides by positive 100 and positive 25. After that, we're going to add the 50p and 25p. And on the other side, 500 plus 100, so is equals to 75p is equals to 600. After we get the total of the two, we're going to divide it by 75p both sides, and we will get p is equals to 8. So now we can get the price and the quantity. Now we're going to substitute the value of p to the given. So now the price is equals to 8 and the quantity is equals to 300. For the last part, we're going to determine the prices for which the quantity demanded is higher than the quantity supplied of the given. After we graph the given, the demand and supply, we see the intersection line and it have the points of 8 and 300. So now, the price is greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to 8. There is more quantity demanded in the shop, which means there will be run out of stock of shorts. And that's all. Thank you.
Topic 2. Relationship between supply and demand. Basic microeconomics. Relationship between supply and demand is not difficult to learn. It is easy to understand that both supply and demand are important to judge in order to make big decisions on the welfare of the economy as a whole. According to the principles of the market economy, the relationship between supply and demand is balanced at a point in the future and is called the equilibrium price, which implies that the price where the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied. At the equilibrium point, the market price for the good guarantees that the quantity of product or goods provided is equal to the number of goods ordered. At this point, prices are ideally designed to engage customers in purchasing goods, at the same time to ensure that businesses manufacture neither too much nor too little product. The premise behind a market economy is that supply and demand are the best determinants of economic growth and health. There are law of supplies and demand. The law of supply describes that price of the goods rise, the supply for the same will also rise, while in the law of demand states that when the prices of the goods rise, the demand on the other hand will fall. For us to fully understand the relationship between supply and demand, it can be categorized under 3 cases. The first case is excess of supply or supply is greater than demand. In economic terms, an excess supply or an economic surplus is a situation in which the quantity of goods or services produced exceeds the quantity demanded and the price exceeds the level of balance defined by supply and demand. As you can see at the diagram below shows that with the price increase, the producer increases his supply, but the demand stays at its initial position or may even decrease as prices rise. This causes an excess supply condition on the market. For the second case is excess in demand, or demand is greater than supply. In economics, a shortage or excess demand is a situation in which the demand for a product or service exceeds its supply in a market. The diagram below shows that with falling prices, consumers are raising their demand, but the supply remains in its initial position or may even decrease due to falling prices. This generates a condition of excess demand on the market. For the last case is equilibrium quantity. This is the state of equilibrium where the consumer's demand for goods and services is equal to the producer's supply of goods and services. Here, the economy is in a satisfactory state since the manufacturer supplies his product to the same price that the buyer demands. The diagram below indicates that the amount is supplied at the same price as that demanded by the consumer. Thus, both the demand curve and the supply curve intersect each other at the same point.
Why demand and supply is important? Because demand and supply They are parts of the process of a country's economic situations. Demand indicates a person's willingness and ability to buy a product. Supply, on the other hand, refers to the consumer's desire and ability to sell product. Therefore, we cannot separate the connection of the two in order to have a smooth flow in our market. Everyday people's need and wants change depending on their living conditions or the time we have. For the example, since the start of online classes, last year the demand of gadget to be used for online classes has increased, so the prices and supply have also increased. Let's say that the old prices of a laptop we can buy at 15,000, which is a good quality, but now it reaches 20,000 to 30,000 because it has become in demand, so sometimes there is also a shortage in the supply of product. Thank you. Demand are very both important to economic activity. Supply is the total amount of a particular good or services available at given time to consumers. Demand is a presentation of a consumer's desire to purchase goods and services. It acts as measurement of a consumer willingness to pay a price for a specific good or services. These two economics force influence each other. They are both important for the economy because they impact the price of consumer goods and service within an economy. And the available supply of a good by purchasing a given good or services at a high volume. This leads to an increase in demand. As in demand increases, the available supply also decreases. While an increase supply may stay available, demand at set price. Prices may fall if supply continues to grow. But if supply decreases, price may increase. Supply and demand have an important relationship because together they determine the price of most goods and services. Thank you.
So, after we discuss the supply and demand meaning, advantage and disadvantages, computation, supply and demand relation to each other, why supply and demand is important, let's have a short quiz.
This is our short quiz for our topic demand and supply. You can answer it by your own selves. First, if Nike started selling new shoes and people around the world wanted to buy a pair, would Nike set the price high or low? The answer will be high. You guys got the correct answer. Second, what is supply? A. Supply refers to how many goods you have to sell. B. Supply refers to how many goods you have to buy. C. Supply refers to how much something costs. And D. Supply refers to how much someone spends. The answer will be A. Supply refers to how many goods you have to sell. You guys got the correct answer. Third, which two of the following would be considered to be normal goods? A. TV, radio, and mobile phone. B. Public bargain and transport goods. The answer will be A. TV, radio, and mobile phone. You guys got the correct answer. Fourth, a group of people buying and selling goods or services. This is the definition for A. Demand, B. Equilibrium, C. Market, and D. Supply. The answer will be C. Market. You guys got the correct answer. The last question is, with regard to demand and change in the price of product, service results in movement along the curve. Is it true or false? The answer will be true. You guys got the correct answer. We hope that you would understand our topic, and thank you for listening to us. And here's the quotation by Timothy Ferris. Hope you like it, guys.
Creating demand is hard. Feeling demand is easier. Don't create a product, then seek someone to sell it to. Find the market, define your customers, then find or develop a product for them.